Hi, this is Jason Nickleby, Assistant Director with the Minnesota State High School League, and this is football officiating training tape number 6. We did not have a training tape last week as we had the mid-season Zoom, and we had a recording of that instead. So we're going to have a training tape this week, obviously. Um, this is the last training tape that is required for state tournament eligibility on the eligibility tab on Arbiter. Again, all tapes need to be viewed by October 8th. The remaining training tapes will be placed on the Ref Masters app and on YouTube, and they might be placed on Arbiter, but they would not be required for credit. So just a reminder to all crew members to make sure that you complete those training tapes and make sure that you apply for the state tournament or as a crew for referees or for the field judge, side judge positions, which are new this year. And again, when we're looking at these plays, not picking on any one player or team or official or crew, just trying to use these plays to learn from and to incorporate into our pre-games as we get ready for games this week. So with that, let's take a look at some plays. Okay, in this first one, let's take a look at mechanics, coverage, and talk about pass interference restrictions. So we have kind of a broken play, but we do a nice job of maintaining our position as line of scrimmage, keeping all the players in front, and sticking with our key areas of responsibility. Referee doesn't bail. Um, Back judge, I would say backpedaling is good, turning our hips and running is good, but also don't take yourself so far out of the play that we don't have the best angle or we're really too far away. I think we probably could have stopped here unless there was players that were threatening to go beyond us, which I don't think was the case. So just try to keep that cushion. Don't let players pass you, and let's come to a stop as this action is occurring from a mechanics and coverage standpoint. And you can see the down judge position does that in this play. So well done in that regard. And then when it comes to defensive pass interference, as we've talked about, both players have equal right to the ball. There has to be contact for a pass interference foul to occur and not just face guarding. That's no longer a rule. And, if we don't have clear displacement, clear impeding of the receiver or defensive back's ability to make a play on the ball, then we have no foul. And that's exactly what we have here. Not sure what they want. We see a couple of people jumping up and down that they want this, but this is clearly not a foul, and we do a nice job of staying off of this. So we're looking for an armbar, a cutoff, playing through the back, early contact, all those kinds of categories relative to pass interference. But in this case, there's really no contact till after the ball is touched by the receiver. So um, this is face guarding, basically, the old rule. Definitely not a foul for pass interference, and we do a nice job of covering this play and no calling this action. Well done. Okay, and this one, 4th and 2 at the 9-yard line. So we need to get to the 7, and pretty critical spot, and it's going to be close. Um, and just remember, we need to understand and know the line to gain prior to the play as line of scrimmage officials, so that we don't have to look behind us and those kinds of things. We do a nice job of pinching really hard on this play, killing the clock because we know we're going to stop the clock on this play no matter what, whether we're going to give the offense a first down or if we're going to have a turnover and downs. When we do pinch, we need to come all the way to players and then stop. Don't go around them, etc. We do a nice job. We get the ball, we put it down at our feet. However, do not leave the ball. Stay there, because if you back off from the ball and then number 40 there kicks the ball, now our spot is completely wiped out. So do not leave the ball. come to players, stop, have someone hand you the ball. Do not throw the line of scrimmage official the ball. Put the ball at your feet, line of scrimmage official, where you want it, and then stay with the ball until the back judge comes to get it, or the referee comes up and makes a decision. So the other piece of this is if we know that the line to gain is exactly the 8 or exactly the 7 or whatever the yard line, and we know that they're clearly short, like on a turf field like this, just go ahead and tell the referee they're short, they're short. Referee can just come up, turn, and signal first down, and we don't really have to get into it. If it's close, then we might have to do a measurement and so on, especially when it's tight to the line to gain. So uh, know the line to gain in advance, pinch the players, put the ball at your feet, and then make a decision. Well done. Okay, we have first and goal at the 4 here. So as we know, our mechanic is to get right to the goal line immediately at the snap as line of scrimmage officials. Anytime we're 7 and in, we're going to go right to the goal line. Even if the line to gain is involved, we're going to go right to the goal line. So when we do that, remember that we want to go back at an angle so that we're back at the back edge of the white for sure, if not deeper than this as a line of scrimmage official. Um, Unfortunately, we don't do that here. We forget, I think, to go to the goal line at the snap, and so we're on the move as the runner's making his way over to uh, to the goal line, to the pylon. And then when the runner approaches us, because we're not in the position that we want, we move out of the way so we don't get run over, which is good. But if we had been working deep in the first place, we probably could have just moved straight backwards and been out of harm's way and then been able to make a decision. Now, as it turns out, when we moved beneath the goal line, the way this play turned out, we were able to see player number 12 extend the ball uh, over and or inside the pylon, which is a touchdown. So this is properly ruled from that standpoint. But remember, we wouldn't get the goal line extended if we do not get a body part down or touching the goal line or the end zone. So if this ball did not go inside the pylon or on or over the pylon, we would not get the goal line extended, and they would be out of bounds where it crossed the sideline. But just again, mechanically, get to the goal line at the snap, work back at an angle, work as deep as you can, officiate stationary from there. So uh, when we forget, I get it, and we need to get out of harm's way, but it's ideal to work back at an angle and be stationary at the time of the potential touchdown. Okay, in this one, I want to talk running play coverage and offensive holding. So you'll see a couple suspect blocks out front of this running play. And um, first, remember maintaining the line of scrimmage until the pass is imminent. Obviously, no pass, so we're going to maintain the line of scrimmage and then let the play develop in front of us. Then, from a coverage standpoint, as a line of scrimmage official and a back judge and umpire as well on this play need to get our vision to point of attack blocks. Okay. Um, in this case, potential for a face mask there on the runner, so that's something that we have to uh, take into consideration. Um, but otherwise, we're looking at point of attack blocks, and let's look at these two where they go to the ground. So the first one you'll see at the 35-yard line. That's really an overpower by the offensive player. He just drives into him, and then as the defensive player is going to the ground, he kind of grabs hold of the offensive player and takes him to the ground. And then on the other block, at the point of attack here, um, to the left of that initial block here, the block against number 18 of the defense, this also looks like an overpower, and the defensive player kind of reaches out and pulls the offensive player to the ground. Now, we end up having a hold called on this play against the offense, and I would say that there really shouldn't be a foul in this play at all. And if we're going to call anything, it really should be a defensive hold, because we're pulling those offensive players to the ground. So remember, with offensive holding, point of attack, yes or no? I'd say yes. Is there a material restriction? I would say by the offense, no. By the defense, yes, I could support that. And then if we're going to go with materials restriction, what is the category? And it's a takedown by the defense, really, in this case. But the point of this is, one, we need to get our vision to lead blocks. That's point of attack. And then secondly, as it relates to offensive holding, don't get fooled by overpowers. Sometimes when they go to the ground, it isn't because of a foul at all in some cases, or it's because it's by the defensive player. And in this case, I think it's two offensive players just being stronger really than the defensive players, or having better leverage and driving them to the ground, and the defensive player helps them go to the ground. So I would say there's no foul for offensive holding on this play. It is at the point of attack. However, there's no material restriction or category to describe the action by the offense. So just be careful relative to overpowers, or quick grabs or light grasps with a jersey, things that do not have a material restriction or effect against um, the player that's being blocked. On this one, first and goal from little past the 5. And again, remember, going right to the goal line, working at an angle and deep, and you see the line judge in this play all the way at the restraining line. So we obviously move right to the goal line. We work deep at an angle. We're stationary as the ball carrier gets to the goal line, and then we signal touchdown. So this is outstanding mechanics and coverage, exactly what we want to see. And then further, we turn and face players. So acting like there's a camera in our belt buckle as we turn and face this ball carrier. Casey spikes it, throws the ball in the crowd, gets tackled, any of those things, we'd be able to pick that up, and we do so here. So this is excellent mechanics, perfect, inside the 7, exactly what we should be doing. Just an excellent example of goal line mechanics. Nicely done. Okay, scrimmage kick coverage here. Formation looks good. We're in good initial position. Remember, referees, umpires, we're going to be about 4 yards-ish off to the right or left of the kicker, and then about 4 or 5 yards deep of the kicker as our initial position. And then as back judge, we need to chain side shade, okay? Remember, about, again, 4 to 5 yards towards the chain side from the returner, and then about 7, 8 yards deep or so for our cushion. So might want to be just a smidge deeper, but otherwise we're in really good position to view this. And then good hustle by the line judge gets down to assist with coverage of the return. And then we do a really nice job of no calling this action, because remember, when it comes to kick catch interference, we're talking about um, contact or even actions that impede or slow down the receiver's ability to make a play on the ball. In this case, clearly has an unimpeded attempt to play the ball, is allowed to complete the catch, clearly becomes a runner, and then the tackle is definitely legal. So we don't have any 9-4-3 contact, and so on. So no kick catch interference on this play, correctly so. his opportunity to catch the ball is not impeded. And then finally, we do not have 9-4-3 contact against the receiver. So therefore, this is a legal play, and we do a nice job of not calling anything and covering the action. Well done. Okay, another running play, offensive holding uh, play. So see, we have a shovel pass here. So just remember, if this hits the ground, it's an incomplete pass. We're going to have a foul called against the offense. Um, whether it's a block in the back or a hold, it doesn't matter. We'll kind of talk about coverage and what we're looking for, but we get into enforcement right away, and it's very efficient, that whole penalty enforcement announcement, and then back to the or into the next play. From that standpoint, it's just very efficient. So that part's good. Line of scrimmage works into the backfield, lets it develop in front. That's all good. We're looking at blocks at the point of attack. That's also good. Um, and we do a nice job of, just keeping players in front and in our vision. So all of that is good. Now, as it relates to the suspect block at the 30-yard line where the foul is called, remember when we're talking about offensive holding, point of attack, material restriction category. And then if it's a block in the back, we need them to be in chase mode for any contact in the back to be a foul. In this case, initiates contact with the player that's being blocked almost right away and subsequently shoves them to the ground. And so I see this as a defensive player that's taking the offensive player where he wants to go. There might be a slight grab, but ultimately he just pushes him to the ground at the point of attack. I don't see this as a material restriction or a block in the back, and we would prefer that this one not be called. And especially from the standpoint of this is the first quarter, middle of the first quarter. Whatever we call at this point of the game, we're setting the standard for the rest of the game. So we want to make it big, obvious, because anything after that, has to meet that threshold. And if we establish a threshold that's not quite as big, then everything else in the game that even comes close to that, we're going to have to put a flag on the ground to maintain that same threshold or standard. So I would say in this case, it appears the offensive player blocked what was presented to him. He just takes them, continues, and rides them into the ground. And I just don't see a material restriction for offensive holding in this case, or even if block in the back was the decision. Yes, there's some contact in the back, but there's also contact in the side. And as long as they're not in chase mode, as long as there's some contact in the side or front, it is not a block in the back either. So just a couple considerations relative to holding and block in the back that we should consider when evaluating action for a foul. On this one, I want to talk about offensive holding and and defensive holding for that matter, and the two-step process. So anytime we see action that we think rises to the level of holding, we need to follow a two-step process. And just quickly, good hustle by the back judge here, comes up, takes the spot, umpire comes down and takes his place. So that is just fine if that's how you want to do it. If back judge just wants to stay back and communicate with the umpire about where the succeeding spot is, that is totally fine. So really good coverage, mechanics on this play. But take a look at the block by the right tackle. Um, it appears that the defender beats him to the outside eventually, but at the time that there's the restriction, the ball is away. So getting back to the two-step process, whether it's offensive or defensive holding action, so we see point of attack or that it affects the play and so on. We see the material restriction, and there's definitely material restriction. We determine a category, at that point as well. After we see that action, we need to find the ball. So in this case, we see the dip of the shoulder. 72 definitely, in my opinion, holds number 84 and dips the shoulder. But if we're looking at that action, we see the dip of the shoulder and we're like, yep, that's enough for holding. And then we turn and look at the ball and the ball's away. That is not a foul for offensive holding, not one we want called. And um, anything that's real close timing wise, whether it's away or not, or whether the runner is long past the holding action or not, we should err on the side of not having a foul. So I think the referee does a good job here of passing on this. Is this action enough for material restriction and offensive holding action? I would say yes. Is the ball away? I would say in real time where we see the action, turn and look for the ball and it's gone. I would say yes, the ball is gone, or it's about to be gone within a millisecond of the action. So I think this is a good no call and a good use of the two-step process. Okay, these last two are going to cover intentional grounding. Same game, same crew, and I think we handled them both perfectly. So well done by the crew. Just really good examples of what we should be looking for and how we should be handling intentional grounding. So we're going to have intentional grounding here, called by the referee as he rolls out to that
intentional
side.
grounding.
Good announcement.
Offense number 2 is outside.
So nicely handled on this aspect. Our mechanics, our coverage are perfect. Referee maintains a spot. All he does is turn and pivot and officiate inside out. He picks up on the fact that the passer, his knee is not down. Okay. He knows he's dumping it. Yeah, he's outside the free blocking zone because we've cleared that aspect of it. And then once that's the case, and he's the player that initially controlled the snap, he can legally ground it, but he has to get the pass back to the neutral zone or the neutral zone extended. If it hits somebody, we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. In this case, doesn't make it. And this is information that's going to have to be supplied by the line of scrimmage official. So we know he's outside the free blocking zone. We know as long as he gets the pass to the neutral zone or neutral zone extended, it will not be a foul for intentional grounding. If he's still inside the free blocking zone, then it must get to an area occupied by an eligible receiver, regardless of where the pass goes. Also, if the player that throws the ball does not control the initial snap, they also have the same um, provisions or restrictions in place, in that the only way that that passer can avoid an intentional grounding foul is if a pass makes it to an area occupied by an eligible receiver. And remember, when we're talking about an area occupied by an eligible receiver, we define that as an eligible receiver that is coming back towards the passer will get 7 yards of leeway, and if they're going away, they will only get 5. They will get less. If the pass is started prior to contact, we will give them a little bit more leeway on getting it to that 5 or 7 yard or getting it to the neutral zone extended. If they start the passing motion after contact, we're going to give them less leeway. And if they don't make those provisions, whether it's neutral zone or area occupied by an eligible receiver, we would have a foul for intentional grounding, which would be a 5-yard penalty and a loss of down from the spot of the foul. And we do that really well here. So in this particular play, gets outside the free blocking zone, needs to get the pass to the neutral zone extended, does not do that. The referee does an excellent job of pivoting, officiating inside out, and then closing on the action for dead ball officiating purposes. And secondly, and maybe as important, when we clear the action and then look upfield and the line of scrimmage official or the back judge is coming at us saying there's nobody there or it didn't make the line of scrimmage, we're just going to stop them and put a flag down and we're going to get on with it. Because we knew he was dumping it. We knew what he was trying to do. Didn't make it to where it needs to. That's a foul for intentional grounding, and we got a flag on the ground. So well handled, great mechanics and coverage, quickly disposed of this. Very decisive. Communication, everything was perfect. This is exactly how we want to handle intentional grounding fouls. On this last one, this is also very well handled relative to intentional grounding. This time we're going to move a little bit towards the umpire side, but we don't vacate the free blocking zone and then we clearly dump it. Now, he controlled the initial snap, okay? So as long as he does that and gets outside the free blocking zone, he can throw it to an area occupied by an eligible receiver or just have it cross the neutral zone or neutral zone extended. He does not do that here when we have a good
Intentional
announcement.
grounding. Offense number 2. Player was still in the pocket. There was no eligible receiver.
So well handled there again. Again, 5-yard penalty, loss of down from the spot of the foul when we have intentional grounding. And unlike the last one, this one goes towards the umpire side. Remember, umpires, we're going to have our right foot on the left foot of the tackle, and we're going to maintain that position throughout the play. Where if the passer crosses our face, they've left the free blocking zone, and we're going to turn and officiate inside out. And if they do cross our face, all they have to do is get the pass across the neutral zone or neutral zone extended. If they don't cross their face, then they have to get it to an area occupied by an eligible receiver. In this case, doesn't get outside the free blocking zone, so it must get to a receiver. Clearly out of bounds, clearly no receiver there. Umpires, you're going to do the same thing as referee. We need to close on the passer because again, when it's at this part of the field, we are the primary for roughing the passer and for intentional grounding. Now, when I say primary, that doesn't mean only. That means we have referees that are also taking an eye at this or taking a look at it and should be assisting, but the umpire needs to come to the dead ball action. Once they clear it, they turn and look. Line of scrimmage is saying nobody there or didn't cross the line, etc. And then as the umpire, we are going to put the flag on the ground, which we do in this case, which is great. And then we're going to get into the announcement, penalty enforcement, etc., and move on from there. So again, well handled. Maybe a couple more things to clean up as far as umpire. Let's maintain the tackle, not the tackle box, the free blocking zone. Let's maintain that. If we get our position threatened, let's back straight up and then let the passer cross our face. In this case, it doesn't threaten us. We're just going to maintain that position, officiate inside out, close on the dead ball action, then turn and look upfield once we do that. And if they're coming at us, we're going to put a flag down for intentional grounding because we know he's clearly dumping it in this case. So both plays, same crew, same game, well handled, mechanics, communication, and judgment. Nicely done. Okay, that will do it for training tape number 6. Again, we didn't have a tape last week. We just had the mid-season Zoom recording. But the 6 training tapes that are broken into 2 on the arbiter eligibility tab are required for view for all officials who wish to be considered for a state tournament assignment. They are all required prior to October 8th. So let's make sure we get on that and get that taken care of. And then make sure as crews we apply for the state tournament. Referees, you do the application there. And then if you as an individual are interested in the field judge, side judge positions, you should fill out the field judge, side judge application. And again, in all cases, we need to have all of the eligibility requirements completed by October 8th, including the training tapes. So with that, appreciate your diligence on these and your willingness to talk about these topics in your pre-games and throughout the week as we prepare for the games. Hang in there, stay healthy, and so on. And have a good weekend of games, and we'll talk to you next week.